Well, good morning.
Good morning.
This window is showing. Good morning, Bob. Where are you from?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Wow. We're in Homer, Alaska, and winter kicked our butt a couple of weeks ago, but this morning it is flat gorgeous.
I'll be down after dinner.
Check it. Make sure you're.
Good morning, Norma.
Oh, good morning.
I think you will love this lesson, Norma. It is my absolute favorite. And I have a lot of favorites, but it's on the top of the list that I do. One of those I can do anytime, any place. You'll want to do it in standing, I would think.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
is.
I did this on Wednesday and I did like it a lot.
Oh, really? Okay.
Do you want your video?
Good morning, Martha, Ellen, and Will, and Paula from Anchorage. Good morning.
That's me.
Huh? Because you probably don't
And Bob, wow.
Huh? Do you want to know?
So if you were joining us on Wednesday and you have any suggestions as far as my presentation, especially with Skinny Rick and the amount of demonstration I do or don't do, I'm all ears. I look back at the video and there was places that I know could use some improvement. So I'm always receptive to how to improve it for you being on the receiving end, because that's why we do this. So for those of you who are logging in early, this can be done in standing or sitting. If you're sitting, we're going to be reaching a bit behind us. And so having a stool rather than a chair, or if you have a sturdy armless chair, your hand can always just glide down the back, but the back is sort of in the way. So I'll demonstrate that when everybody comes on, but that's why I put in the opening slide there that a stool may be helpful today. And that's why I have Skinny Rick set up on a stool too. So Bob, where you're from, help me out, Bob.
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Minnesota. What's your temperature like in Minnesota?
About 36 degrees. 36 is, I think, is the current temperature out my yard.
Well, you're very similar to Alaska right now. At least they say we're in the banana belt. So I should preface that. There's a huge range in Alaska from southeast, where it's drippy Seattle type of weather, a little bit cooler, but drippy, up to the north. So it's a huge range, and they call us the banana belt because it's a little more mild than interior, certainly. That's why I live here. I don't think I could handle the interior on year after year after year.
You're right, in an earthquake belt there.
And volcanoes.
Do I see Karen Cobble on for her first time? Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Karen's been, for the rest of you, Karen's been working on the technology end and her daughters were able to help her and get connected. Congratulations. Her video is working. And for HIPAA requirements, you need to unmute yourself. I can't, during the class, I can mute all of you, but if you want to speak up, you need to unmute yourself, and that's just for privacy. And likewise with the video. So like I mentioned earlier, this lesson can be done seated or standing. Your shoes will need to be off. If you're choosing to do this lesson seated, having a sturdy stool is ideal, or a sturdy armless chair. And the reason for the stool being a preference is because we're going to lean back a little bit, and the back of the chair could get in your way. So Karen, unless your knees have greatly changed, you'll probably want to do this seated. Does that make sense? Give me thumbs up, Karen. Can you hear me okay? So Karen, I can't hear you at all, but that's okay, I guess.
I think, can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Good, okay. And this is a brand new computer. I'm just getting used to it.
Oh, wow, you're doing awesome. You were able to log in and connect, and we have
had some
video
help.
and audio. How good is that?
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard me. You can do this in sit or stand. And it is time to start. So I'm going to switch gears, mute everybody, and make sure that our recording is on. And then we can get started.
So how do I get?
And are you ready? Okay, welcome to Body Moves. This lesson is one of my favorites: folding, bending, and standing steady. Shoes off. You can do it in sit on a sturdy armless chair or a stool. Stool is the preference. Or in standing. In standing is how the lesson was first taught and written, and that's the preference if you feel comfortable standing. But I only pick lessons that can be done very effectively in sit or stand. So you're in charge of ease and comfort. My name is Dotti Harness-Foster. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, and this lesson is designed to help lengthen you in the process of bending. By the end, you may feel better aligned from the sole of your feet to the top of your head. So a little bit about technology is that in the middle bottom of your screen, you have a rectangular explanation box. That's the chat. And since you're all muted, if you have a question or issue, concern, comment, you can type it into the chat. My husband is here and he monitors the chat and helps with the camera. Also yesterday when we were doing a test, the bandwidth, the amount of information being able to stream over the internet was limited. If that's the case, you can stop my video. My goal is to provide enough audio cues that you wouldn't need the video. You can also stop your video, and that frees up some bandwidth. So let's see, you're all muted. So you don't need to take notes. I have a reference sheet and audio file already on my website for you. So we're going to start this lesson in sit or stand. So I'm going to come out and show you Skinny Rick. For those of you who are logging in for the first time, this is my skeleton and his name is Skinny Rick. He's showing you one position of sitting. His feet are flat on the floor. And when I talk about the sole of our feet or the movement in our legs, those of you sitting are going to take your reference right up here to the base of your pelvis where your sitting bones are. And if you wiggle around in your seat and put your hands on underneath your bottom, you can feel your sits bone squishing into your fingers. Think of your sits bone as being the sole of your feet. Okay? For those of us standing, we're going to just stand with our feet a comfortable hip distance apart, and we start a lesson by sort of dialing into how we feel at the beginning of the lesson. So stand or sit with your feet flat on the floor. Your legs are hip distance apart. And notice where the weight is in the sole of your feet or in the base of your seat. Is it more on the right side of or the left side? And taking your awareness to your right foot, let's dial it in even more. Do you have more weight forward into the right ball of the foot or more weight in the back of the heel? And take your awareness to the sole of your left foot. More weight in the front of your ball of the left foot or in the heel. What is that angle like between the top of your foot and your shin? And you may find these questions all very goofy. Just be curious. Geez, I never thought of the bend in my knee between your shin and your thigh. What's the bend like in your pelvis? How is your chest balanced over your pelvis? And where are you looking? Whether you're seated or standing, where is your horizon at the beginning of this lesson? And transfer your weight from one side to the other. So if you're seated, you feel more weight going into like your left sits bone and then the right sits bone. And lift one foot just off the floor a smidgen. Notice what foot you chose to lift. Set that foot back down and transfer your weight to the other foot, lifting the non-weight bearing leg and go back and forth, noticing at the beginning of this class, which leg would you consider the most available, the most steady? How steady does it feel? And just walk in place a little bit. I know we're in our kitchens, our living room, so we don't have a whole lot of room, but just walk in place. Whether you're seated, you're wiggling in your seat, you're walking in place if you're standing. Put your hands on your hips. Notice the swagger that you have as you are walking somewhat in place. Then put your hands on your ribs and do the same thing, noticing if there's any movement in the ribs as you walk about. And let's take a break, shake it out. This lesson has a lot of breaks because it can be challenging, and you don't need to wait for me to take a break because you're in charge of ease and comfort. So when we take a break, I find that just walking around and shaking it out works well for me. You may want to lie down. If you're sitting, give your weight to the chair. So you find that range that's comfortable for you. Come back to a stance with your feet hip distance apart and take your right palm and slide it down the front of your right thigh, taking it slow enough so you can actually caress that quad muscle on the front of your thigh, and then ooze yourself back up and repeat this movement several times. So you're taking your right palm, caressing down the right thigh. If you're seated, you're still doing the same thing, coming closer to your knee. Notice how you round yourself a bit forward. We're all looking down at our knee. And then as you come back up, inhale, looking out at the horizon. One more time, caressing, massaging down the right thigh in the direction of your knee, in the direction of the floor if you're standing. And then we're going to switch sides. So taking your left hand and glide it down the front of your left thigh, caressing, taking it slow enough so that you can be informed of what's going on in your back. Repeat this movement several times. Notice how you're bending a little bit over to the left. More weight is in your left foot. You're looking down towards your left knee and the floor. One more time. Taking it slow, getting to know the front of your thigh. And now we're going to take both hands down the front of each thigh. That means you're bending your knees, you're bending at the ankles. Your spine is rolling, curling forward, and oozing yourself back up. And repeat this several times. And you're discovering the best way to round and to fold and to bend forward. Notice how your head goes forward and your pelvis goes back. So as you take your hands down the front of your thigh, your head goes forward. The pelvis is opposite of your head. It's going back. It's very, very clever to keep us balanced. And let's take a break and shake it out. So each variation to this lesson brings in a different organization between the sole of our feet, including our pelvis, our spine, in the top of the head. And your body is very, very clever. So let me show you this next move, what it's like first with Skinny Rick. If you're doing this lesson in sit, you're going to take one foot out to the side, and the weight is on, most of the weight is in this standing flat leg, about 80% of your weight. The other foot is out here with just the ball of the foot in contact with the floor. Your heel is slightly off the floor. And then we're going to take our hand and glide it down the outside of our leg. It changes up how our spine moves. So let me show you what that looks like in standing. My standing leg is going to be my left. My right toe is just out to the side, the camera zooming in, just to show you a little bit of pressure under my right toe. And then I'm going to take my right hand and slide it down the outside. And when I do that, I'm bending everything. Okay, your turn. So come to your starting position with most of your weight in the left foot. The right ball of the foot is off to the front on a diagonal. Take your right hand and caress the outside of your right leg. Both legs are bent, and then ooze yourself back up. And continue doing this movement several times, making the caressing as pleasurable as you can, looking down towards your knee. Your left hand can do whatever it wants. Dangle to gravity. You could have it in your pocket. It doesn't matter. Notice how your pelvis goes back over that standing leg. If you're sitting, there's more weight that goes back into your left sits bone, and your head goes opposite your pelvis, looking down and forward to the right. Take your time to linger. If there's a spot that's really interesting to you, feel free just to hang out and observe. And let's shake it out. To me, these sort of where most of our weight is on one steady leg, there's an incredible amount of organization that's happening in your system, in that standing leg, in the pelvis. And so I think in this lesson, you got to shake it out, wiggle around, rest on the floor, whatever you need to do, you're taking care of yourself. And we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So come to your standing position. Most of your weight is in the standing right leg. The left toe is just off to the side. The ball of the foot is in contact with the floor. The heel is lifted a bit. Take the left hand and slide it down, caressing, taking it slow enough, bending your ankles. Keep that left heel up off the floor a little bit, and notice how far your heel is off the floor. Maybe it's just most of the weight is off of the heel. Maybe you could slide a piece of paper under there, maybe a magazine underneath your heel, maybe the encyclopedia or a thick dictionary. Continue taking your left hand down the outside of your left leg. Allow giving yourself time so that your spine is very, very clever. Give it time to sort out so that your head is going down to the left on a diagonal and coming back up. And my husband is telling me that the audio is a little strange. I'm going to take a little break. Okay. I think it has to do with where do I put my mic on my shirt when I'm bending down and that kind of thing. So we're trying to equalize that out so it's not too loud for you. And after you've done that several times, let's shake it out. And now I'm going to demonstrate, and so is Skinny Rick, coming back to the camera. So our next position is going to be taking our palm, placing it, our right palm as if it was in the back of our pocket on our back side. And we're going to crest down the back side of our buttocks down into the thigh, if that's available. So this is where a stool versus a chair comes in handy. If you're in a chair and have a back to the chair, slide your bottom forward and you'll just need to get your hand down and behind you somehow, okay? Those of us standing, take your feet are a little bit wider than hip distance, hip to shoulder distance apart. Take your right hand, place it on your backside, and together begin to massage the back side of your pelvis. And notice what you do between your pelvis and your head. Do you take your pelvis forward and your head back? Or do you take your pelvis back and your head forward? Very, very interesting on how our spine, our body, this innate internal sense of how we organize ourselves. Repeat this several times, massaging down the back side of your pelvis, down the back side of your right thigh, if that's available. And try it both ways. There's also a third way. Some of you may be bending over to the right to make that happen. So try it every way that you can imagine to caress the back side of you. And the next time you come up, let's switch sides. So my left hand is in that back pocket, but that back pocket just goes down and down. And notice what you do. Do you bend to the left? Very, very different way of folding your spine, bending your knees, your ankles. Everything is involved in this caressing party. And then try taking the pelvis forward and the head back as you caress down your backside. And then the pelvis back and the head forward. What way is your go-to? Feel free to dawdle around, giving yourself time for your system. It's very, very clever. It just needs a bit of time. Each time you come up, inhaling, and let's shake it out. It's interesting, that step in itself, we all have our favorite go-to, and we're all a bit different. So trying different variations, it's like an eye opener. Oh, I never even thought about rounding myself to the side or bending or folding in a different way. So this next step is a continuation of our hands sliding down the back side. We're going to all turn around, both hands on our back side. My feet are wide. We're going to go down in a variety of ways. And then we're going to narrow up our feet and do the same thing. So if you're in sit, your feet take a wide stance or a narrow stance. Okay, so in position, a wide stance, Both hands on the back side of your pelvis. Caress and slide down the back side of your pelvis. And notice what you want to do on your first time. Where does your head go? Opposite your pelvis. And then try different things. Explore, what if I took my pelvis forward? Your head is balancing you. It just knows what to do. It just needs time. So dawdle around, give it plenty of time to figure out. Notice that it's really hard to do a side bend when both hands are going down, bending in the feet, the knees. If there's anything between the sole of your feet and the top of your head that's not involved, invite it to this caressing party. And then let's bring our feet together. So your big toes are touching, your ankles are close together, and do that same movement. Notice, wow, what is your go-to? Meaning, what is the most available? Does that mean, wow, your pelvis is forward and head back? Maybe it's easier for you to take your pelvis back, but either way, your pelvis and your head are opposite each other because it is so clever. Is there anything else that you can learn and do with both hands caressing down the back side? And when you're done with that, let's shake it out, walk, give your weight to the chair. You could lie down. Okay, we keep adding layers and we keep changing how we fold and bend. So I'll demonstrate first with Skinny Rick. He's going to bring out, the heel is lifted, and both hands are going to go down the back side of the leg. So let me demonstrate that. What that looks like is both hands down the back side. So one hand is, my right hand is going down the back side of my right leg. Only about 20% of my weight is in this right foot. The left hand crosses over my midline and glides down the back of my right leg. Your turn. Get into position. Most of your weight in your left foot. The heel is lifted. Your right heel is lifted. The ball of the right foot is in place. Both hands are behind your right leg and begin to caress down your right leg. You're looking down towards your knee. Exhaling as you go down. Lingering, dawdling around so that your system has the opportunity to get this bend, this folding movement. Make it as pleasurable. And if there's any part of you that's not helping out, that's not participating, ask it to come along and help you caress the back side of your right leg. And notice how your standing leg really needs to organize in order for this to happen. And let's take a break. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. So transferring our weight to our right leg is our standing leg. 80% of our weight is going through the right leg. Stack yourself so that you feel that coming up into the pelvis. The left foot is off to the front diagonal, ball of the foot in contact with the floor. Both hands are going to caress the back side of your left leg. Your head going down to the left. Notice how your pelvis knows what to do. It's sinking back into that right pelvis, the right hip. Take it slow enough that your whole body has the opportunity to figure out what is the best way for me to caress down my left leg with both hands. Notice how your body folds and unfolds. Is there one, excuse me, is there one side that feels easier to you? Let's go back and forth a few times. So bringing your left foot back so you can stand on it. Your hands come through the front of your pelvis, standing on your left, the right toe out, and take both hands down the right. Looking down toward the right, your pelvis to the left. As you come up, notice how your head and your pelvis both want to find center, and then transfer weight to your right leg, and the left toe comes out on that diagonal, and smooth this. It's almost like your head and your pelvis are making an arc in space. Smoothing it out, making it as luxurious as you can so that it's not any one particular movement. It's this beautiful flow, caressing down one leg, coming up through your center. The weight is on the sole of both feet as you come through center. And when you're done with that, shake it out. And what does it mean to be done with that? One, there's a lot of physical things going on in our legs, in our torso. There's a lot of mental things to think about too. So at some point, you just need to take a break from it all. So let me demonstrate our next step. Skinny Rick in sit. The weight is similar to what we've been doing with most of your weight in your standing foot. This time the heel is out, the toes are lifted. I think of the forefoot, the entire part here, coming closer to your shin. Some people say, well, toes directed to the nose. Whatever works for you, heel is up. And what that does, it straightens, it elongates the back of the muscles on the back of your leg when your heel is directed into the floor. So in standing, my left foot is my standing. Most of my weight is in the left. My right heel is just off to the side, but you can't do that without lengthening that right leg. Your turn. And our hands are going to go down the front of us. So 80% of your weight in your left, heel out. Take your right hand down the front of your thigh. Allow yourself to bend, looking down towards your right toes. And oozing yourself back up. So now your body needs to, the bend in your standing supportive leg is very different because the right leg is straight. Your left hand can do whatever it wants to. Do that several times. And for some of you, you may feel that your foot is available. Feel free to tickle your toes or massage the sole of your foot and ooze yourself back down. And now let's transition to the other side. So you're bringing that right foot to standing, and then the left heel goes out to the diagonal, just a little bit of weight on that left heel, most of it in your right standing foot. The left hand is now caressing down the front of your thigh in the direction of your left foot, and then ooze it back up. And notice how in this position, your head is opposite your pelvis. And that left pelvis is really having to work to keep you balanced, keep you steady. The sole of your foot may or may not be available. There's no goal of accomplishment. You're just discovering for you how your system works. And when you're done with that, shake it out and let's take a break. So as we come to the latter part of the lesson, we begin adding in all these variations. So this next step blends in what we've done before. I'll demonstrate standing on my left, my right heel is out. I'm going to take my hands, both hands down the outside of my right leg, and then come back up on the inside. And then I'm going to switch it to where the weight is on the ball of the foot. Again, going down the outside and up the inside. And we're going to coordinate the switching of our foot from our heel to our toe. So come to your starting position, most of your weight in your left, the heel out to the right on that diagonal. Both of your hands caressing down the outside of your right leg. Your pelvis goes back to the left on that standing, and then come back up on the inside. So it requires that you have to organize yourself very differently. and then switch your foot to come to the ball of the right foot, caressing down the outside of your right leg. Feel free to go down to the foot if that's available to you. Do that several times. Taking in as much information and asking your whole self to participate in this gliding, caressing party. And smoothly transition to the other side. So the hands come through your center, your weight transfers to the right foot, and the left toe or the left heel is out with just a bit of weight. And you're taking your hands down the outside of your left leg in the direction of your foot, and then coming back up the inside. And switch from your heel, your right heel having 20% of your weight, and to the toe having a bit of weight. Noticing how your body organizes you so that you can discover the best way. If the sole of your foot is available, feel free to massage the foot, the heels, the toes. And let's take a break, shake it out, wiggle. So this is the end, our last variation. I'll demonstrate standing on my left, putting my right toe out. Both hands are going to go behind the leg, a different fold and a bend in your spine, different organization. And then we're going to blend the movement of our heel in contact with the floor, then our toes as we do this. So when you feel ready, come to standing or sitting on with most of your weight on your left, your right heel or toe, your choice, off to the side on that front diagonal, taking both hands down the back side of your right leg, massaging. If your foot is available, tickle the toes, bending in your, especially that standing leg, oozing yourself back up. And then transferring the weight, a little bit of weight into the right toe, just enough for a bit of balance. Notice how far your heel is off the floor. Sliding your hands back up the back side of your leg and your pelvis. And let's transition to the other side, making that transition as smooth as you can. The weight is in your right foot, and the left toes or the left heel is out on the left. Your choice, because we're going to alternate having the ball of the right foot out there with a little bit of weight for balance, or the right heel out there for a little bit of balance. Notice how you breathe, exhaling as you go down, your head looking down to the right, pelvis going to the left, and let's blend these two movements so that your pelvis makes an arc, swings a little bit through the center. The weight transfers over to the left, The right foot comes out on that diagonal. Your head goes down to the right. Keep massaging down the back side of your right leg. And I am going to go to gallery view to observe. Feel free to change it up. This is the last variation. So if there's any little things that you want to explore, to try, shifting your weight, bending, folding, caressing, dawdle around, explore the best efficiency, making it smooth and pleasurable. And when you're done with that, let's take a break, shake it out. The reason why this lesson is one of my most favorite is that it can be done just about any time, anywhere. You could be in a tiny shower stall and still caress down a leg in different ways. So I love that about this lesson. When I was writing up my notes for this lesson, I'm sitting in my chair at my computer. One heel is out, that leg is straight. I'm just thinking about sliding down my leg, and oh my gosh, it just really encourages your spine to get organized between the top of your head and the sole of your feet. So come back to your starting position, sitting or standing. Notice how you stand now at the end of the lesson. And transfer weight to one foot and then the other. Notice the sense of stability that you have at the end of the lesson. And take both hands, slide both hands down the front of your thighs like we did at the beginning. And notice how you fold and bend in your ankles, your knees, your pelvis. Do that several times, just observing how much of your torso is involved in this movement at the end of the lesson. And then reach over as if there's something that off to your right diagonal, an imaginary coffee table. How would you bend and fold so you could reach to get that off the coffee table? And the other side. Or there might be something on the floor. How do you step forward to reach down low to pick up something off the floor? Is that more available to you now at the end of the lesson? And shake it out. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. Next week is Giddy Up Your Step, which involves the bend in our ankle, our knees, our pelvis, our chest, where we're looking. If you are a walker, a hiker, oh man, put the giddy up in your step next week. All of these lessons are brought to you absolutely free. Huge thank you to the Northwest chapter of the American Parkinson's Disease Association and the Council on the Arts. And November is the month of giving. So if you feel these have been helpful, be heartful and consider a donation to either one of those organizations. So I'm Dotti Harness-Foster. My website is insightfulbodymoves.com. And on your screen right now is a screenshot of my home page. It has the book that I've mentioned numerous times. It has a link to the reference sheet, and each one of those black squares, you click on that and you get the audio recording of this lesson so that you can continue moving anytime, anywhere. You can download those so that you have it even without internet connection. So I'm going to come forward and end of lesson, but I love to talk. I'd be very curious. What is the changes that you noticed in this lesson? How are you bending, folding? Do you feel more steady in your legs? I'm here to answer any questions. I'm going to monitor the chat, see if there's any questions in the chat.